actually dive into the discussion, I would just take a few minutes to uh, introduce Early Bird to everyone. Um, so Early Bird is a not-for-profit initiative under the Nature Conservation Foundation. And what we do is we create content, we create resources. We have resources in more than 10 plus Indian languages. And our intention is to get a lot more kids. Our mission is to get kids closer to nature by using such innovative, different educational materials and activities. So we, like I was saying, we create content. The next thing that we also do is training. And this session is part of a thing like we want to do like a long-term engagement with the educators network that we have formed through these birding buddies workshop and training that we do. So it's like a capacity building workshops and trainings that happen. And a small a chunk of what we do is also outreach, where we directly engage with children and do bird walks or online workshops for them so that they can get access to a lot of more resources and feel connected to nature. And like I was saying, this webinar series is was started to kind of give a platform to educators to share their experiences, get their doubts cleared, brainstorm about solutions to certain challenges that they might have. And we have done a lot of sessions and now, so if you have missed any of the ones before this, you can go and check it out on our YouTube playlist. We'll share the link in the chat so that you have access to it later. You can save it there. So that was for what Early Bird does and a quick introduction to that and the webinar series. So while we get started, again, thank you, Sangeeta, Puneet, and Kalpana for being there on the panel today. I'll just, before we get started with the moderated session, it would be nice if you could introduce yourselves and tell us a little more on the different kind of creative tools or engagement tools that you use when you interact with people. So, Sangeeta, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Thanks for making it for the session, and thank you, Early Bird, for organizing this. Yeah, so I think my journey with nature and art, or I think I should say first, nature started at a very young age. And I was lucky to have parents and uncles and brothers who were into the space of the natural world already, and they had introduced me to, or just giving us experiences in the wild as we were growing up, which was just, amazing. And just our own admiration and respect for nature grew from a very young age. And that apart, with regarding to art, I think my interest in art took me to art college, Chitrakala Parishad in Bangalore. But even while I was in art college, I wasn't sure what I would be doing after I graduate. But luckily for my very first project, I stepped out from art college. I got an opportunity to do a mural. So that's when I enjoyed the process of making that mural so much that I realized that, okay, this is what I wanted to do. So initially I used mural as my tool to just talk to people about, or just showcase to people about the fascinating world of nature that we live in. So it started from a resort, did it in some learning centers, Montessori's, in homes as well, and in schools. So that was a takeoff point, just to fascinate people with the wildlife of India. And gradually I got on to illustrating books as well. for different organizations. It could be children's books, or it could be at natural history books itself, or even for, brochures and posters with different organizations and researchers. So my journey grew slowly, very gradually, but it was a very humbling and wonderful experience throughout. I have been, so the same thing about doing murals when it's large scale, it is very fascinating, right? So similarly now, currently, what I do with such murals is that it's become a little bit of a digital platform, but I use art to showcase about the wildlife in nature information centers, where we combine nature, the fascinating aspects of our natural world, along with text, well-researched, informative text that goes onto the walls that can kind of draw the viewer to them. Like, we want to not just have a board that people will just pass by, but let them walk up to the boards, read what is written, kind of lure them into what it is. Telling us about the natural world. So we have started designing these nature boards as well, trying to make it as aesthetic and informative and engaging as possible. Other than that, the other special and favorite element of art that I use for engaging with the public is nature journaling, wherein we take the classroom outdoors and show them what is out there, show them the store, all the beautiful, from the flowers, leaves, to the insects, to anything that we can see, along with the stories that we can capture, the observations that we can do outdoors. So I think art is very powerful medium, and it is something so engaging that they won't get bored. So this is what I have been doing for the past 2 decades now, and there has been no stopping and no regrets, and I love the journey. And communication is a strong aspect, and definitely through art we can do a great lot. Yeah.
Thanks, Anjita. Puneet, you want to go next?
Yes. So, hi everybody. I'm Puneet, and thank you for inviting me to this panel of Birding Buddies session. And thank you everyone who made it to the session to listen to this discussion. So, yeah, I'm a software engineer by profession, and by passion, I'm a nature photographer, bird educator, and a birder. So I am a part of a team called 𝗬𝗲𝗂𝗫𝗀, which is based in Bangalore, and we do bird awareness activities, bird festivals, nature awareness activities in government schools close to Western Ghats. That is the area that we operate currently. So we've been doing these nature awareness activities for the last 4 to 5 years, and we've done it in more than 6 to 7 schools. So my nature connection starts very early. My native is from Shimoga district in Karnataka state. So I have been in touch with the Western Ghats from my native from a long time. So there the curiosity started, and after some time, me and some of my friends started doing birding, casual birding. Then once we started gaining the knowledge about what birds are and what all they do and everything, then we thought, why don't we extend this knowledge to small children in some schools, some remote village schools. So then we started this team called 𝗬𝗲𝗂𝗫𝗀𝗀. This is a 6-member team. So there we approach the schools which are in the vicinity of forests, or somewhere in the Western Ghats, anywhere in the Western Ghats. Then we approach them and we tell that we do something like this for a 2-day or 1.5-day sessions, and we take it up from there. So yeah, that's my introduction. Thank you.
Thank you for me. Kalpana?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks once again for including me in this session. Each time I talk to other nature educators, there's so much to learn, and I think it's a privilege to be a part of this group of nature educators as well. So I'm Kalpana, and I am a teacher. I teach zoology at a well-known college at Chennai, and already being in contact with young minds. It's we don't need to go anywhere looking for people to teach. We have it right at our doorstep. And teaching has always been a passion. Along with that, if like they say, 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗶𝘂𝘁, we have nature education in addition to our regular classes that we teach. So from because Amrita was asking us about the tools we use. From my point of view, the most interesting and the one which I am best at is telling stories. So I find that storytelling is a very good tool in nature education. I use it not only in my normal classes that I take, but also while taking students around for a nature walk. So one advantage I find relating to storytelling is that any learning, for that matter, I feel that if it is provided in taking more of our senses in operation. For example, if you are seeing, you're hearing, you're doing. Now, if all these things come together when you are learning, that learning is that much stronger. So I feel that the same thing, like storytelling, it can be something that is visual, like it can be some kind of illustration, or it can be acted out, or if it is something which is heard, so you can hear some song, you can hear some sounds, you can hear someone tell a story. Plus, when you do something, now you could yourself act out a story, or so in this you can create stories. So all these things coming together work best for me as a tool if I want to convey something during our nature related activities. And so as far as tools are concerned, I feel I'm most comfortable with storytelling. So that's a little about.
Thank you so much for getting us started with and kind of segue into the discussions about all the different kind of creative tools that we can use and how we can make them effective and achieve the end goal that we want, is to get people engaged with nature, get them to observe nature as much. So with that in mind, I would just the first question that I have for you all is, since you use different tools and like you're using art, stories, theater, like you did mention some of the pros or like the positives of these, and if anything more that you would like to add to how you found that these things have kind of worked best for you, and some things that not always is it possible where we have everyone in the audience who would be most comfortable with or with a particular tool that we are using. So if it's especially kids who have different varied learning styles, then in such a case, where what do you think works best, and how have you kind of tried like to get people to with varied learning abilities uh, more intrigued and get them to do what you want them to do, in whether it's stories. Kalpana, like since you ended the last question, I would probably take it up from there. where you mentioned that stories and using as many senses. So, have you do you have any more points to add where how you've seen that stories have probably helped engage the most of the audience that you have, and any tips on how you can get them to also create any easy prompts for them to create stories as well?
Okay. I have a background in dance, and so as you know that that requires a lot of communication through body, through expressions. So actually, I find that even in regular classes, when I bring in voice modulation and expressions, uh, uh, pep, with small peppy anecdotes and maybe some metaphors, some kind of comparisons in a narrative form. I think that works best for me even in my regular classes, which may be a rather dry subject. So being now that is a dry subject, and nature education for me is nowhere near dry, so that it makes it much more uh, doable. So the same thing I carry forward here because I know that I have seen the reaction in the so-called dry classes, and when I use the same thing here, uh, I think it works very well, especially with children, small children. With the youngsters,
Kalpana, I think we lost you there. Are
Yeah,
you?
I cannot hear. Looks like she's stuck.
Yeah, I think
they can be given. So different, uh, methodology can be adopted if children are, depending on the age of children. But even here, um, you just saw some pictures of students, looking at butterflies and so on. So we are running a couple of certificate courses after ours. And one of the last things that the students do is that once they have learned everything, so one course is on butterflies, and this course at the end of it as an evaluation requires that they should take their peers for a butterfly walk and explain things relating to life cycle, diversity, all these other topics which they have come across during the course, they have to explain it to the peers. So at that age 17 to 20, they're good at it. They are able to communicate well. They have already seen us teachers telling them something. So many of them kind of want to copy that. And they do a great job actually of copying as well as giving extra information to their peers. So I feel that age group also matters, where what kind of tool we use to teach them. And I think you also asked me about challenge. Yes, it's a challenge, but we have 17 to 20 age group right now. But if I were to go from age 4 to 20, I would probably have to have one session filled with different kinds of activities catering to each group. So that would be a challenge, but it's doable. And once again, storytelling always scores in all these interactions.
so having age appropriate approaches, even though it's stories, but catering to that age group. That's a nice point that you brought up. And also using verbal, non-verbal cues to make it more engaging. Um, so on that note, Puneet, do you want to add?
Yes, thank you, Amrita. Yeah, so I really agree with what Kalpana just said. because the stories really do matter. We when we do the events from our team, right? So we also do a lot of storytelling. So what we do is we use the storytelling based on some particular theme, like say some bird behavior, or something related to birds and humans, or something like that. Then we take it up, and yeah, as you can see here, we take the students outside. It's not just a classroom session, the storytelling. So we take them outside amidst nature. We just start, doing the storytelling. So the storytelling will not be from one single person. We, as a team, we take it up. We divide the story into parts, so that children don't get kind of bored with the single wavelength. Then we explain it. We explain the story. Tell the stories with the expressions. Yes, expressions are really important. Uh, uh, yeah. So on that part, and also I we take it up with a notch with the theater experience also. So what we do, we take some, as I said, some bird behavior, and then we do some sort of theater wherein we use some props, like masks, flowers, or something like that, as you can see here. So we depict some sort of bird behavior, or some sort of myths related to birds that we debunk. Then those myths, the children will have a notion that okay, there are some myths related to birds, because they would have heard them from their parents or grandparents or whoever it is. So that kind of myths we try to debunk as well. So with that, yeah, as I said, expressions are really important. Storytelling really goes well with the kids, is what I want to say.
Yeah, I think even I completely agree. Stories are always one of the common factor when you're talking about nature to children or to adults also. I think all age group, however fascinating you can make the story, that will be the best thing, I guess. Like we use, like with nature journaling also, we use a lot of storytelling in the whole process of capturing the sketches. We encourage the children to write a lot in their books. So but the writing comes only if they observe. The more they observe, the more they can capture narratives in their books as well. So that is something that we encourage, and we do some fun activities revolving around that, so that they just get encouraged to write itself. Like we encourage curiosity, like asking questions. Sometimes they don't know how to ask questions. Sometimes we just go circle a tree, and we are like, okay, what are the questions that we can think of when we look at this tree? There are some kids who find it so difficult to come up with any questions at all, whereas another bunch of kids can come up with 10 or even 15 questions at that one moment over there. So just talking about the question kind of encourages children to even think of what are the kind of questions you can ask, right? So just trying to nudge their curiosity is definitely one aspect that we do in nature journaling. And as they already mentioned that different audiences, different age group reacts very differently. How we conduct our nature journaling workshops for the 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds are very different from how we do it for the 15, 16-year-old. Yes, of course, it is possible. We have done even parent and child workshops, but the way we design each and every workshop is different. So getting creative with those aspects is the fun part as well. And the more we dwell in it, the more we put ourselves in that situation as communicators to resolve something. Like if you want to make just leaves interesting or flowers interesting, putting ourselves in that position and thinking of many ways of tackling that subject is something we can do as communicators. And many times, when even in one workshop, one nature journaling session, there are children with different wavelengths of understanding, right? So one person can sometimes disrupt the whole class attention span itself. So tackling those situations is also a challenge that we face sometimes. And there are times when the whole class is just not interested in drawing at all. There's some big shut off, I think, because they do too much of it in school. Maybe that's the problem with urban schools. Maybe they're exposed to a lot. So that's when you need to get in and do it a little differently, do things a little differently. Like for example, there was a school that kids who were not interested at all, and we started doing Pictionary, or trying to give prompts about nature, and then trying to get them to do it like a group activity, which got them more engaged. And there was once a child who was not interested in drawing so much, but when it came to fonts, we used to give fonts like a rock or a flower. So design the font of every species, or not species, every term differently, about 5 different ways how you can write rock itself. So some make it very rocky, some make it very strong, some make it very brittle. How they have seen rocks, or how they have seen a flower. Flowers are very bubbly and flowy, and things like that. So some get really attracted to those kinds. So just catering to different children and their attention spans is also a challenge, but we'll have to somehow figure out ways of addressing those.
Sangeeta, I just love this idea. I think I'm going to be using it. What you
Sure.
talked about, the font and how to uh, convey certain things. So thank you for that idea. I think this is next on my agenda.
Definitely.
Sangeeta, really, that was some really interesting way of imagining things and observing them through a different lens. And that was something that was again going to be my next question, but which you already answered, was different kind of prompts to kind of adjust to different needs, or different kind of journaling style, like getting someone to record or do things differently, and you kind of answered that question.
There's never ending. There are many ways. So yes.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing such an interesting thing up. Just to kind of track back to Puneet and wanted to ask you if you can give us some examples of different themes, or different kind of skits that you have done for the schools that you work with, and how kind of did you come up with kind of choosing those themes, and some, if you have any like a process of how you shortlisted on something.
Yeah, definitely. So we pick some bird behaviors. Okay, for example, most of you know the hornbill nesting behavior, wherein the male, helps the female and its chicks to feed them, and because the chicks and the mother are incarcerated inside the tree cavities, right, during their nesting season. So that hornbill behavior, most of them don't know. They would have seen a hornbill, but they wouldn't have observed this behavior. So we pick that up and we connect it to a human family, okay, wherein the father works very hard to earn for the family. The mother looks after the kids. She'll also work very hard for the family. Right. So there we kind of connect them and put it as sort of a story. And other bird behavior is the sunbird behavior, where it moves around near the flowers. They would have seen that it moves around near the flowers, but what exactly does it do near the flowers? So that behavior we put it as part of a skit, or a musical play, if you will. So that is one some things. And regarding some of the myths, so here we have to choose when to put it as a bird behavior, and to make it like a happy kind of skit, or a storytelling, right? And sometimes you can connect it to myths, as I said before. So myths, for example, the myths related to owls will be a lot more nocturnal birds, like owls, right? So we take some part of myth where a owl is nesting close to a home. A person kills it due to some myth, and then the rodent infestation starts. So connect it there. So because owls are predators which control the surrounding ecosystem. So that kind of connect, if they get, then they will try to understand and observe more in nature how everything is connected. So that is some ideas. And you can you can pick from any bird behavior, not only bird behavior or myths. You can pick from any general topic which is connected to nature, and you can showcase it in front of the audience. So I would say, depending, check the age group before. Okay, so check, if we check the age group, then we'll get to know what their understanding capability is. So if they are small children, then simple bird behaviors, simple storytelling will do. If they are capable of learning more, then you can go with some nature, some destruction that is happening in nature. You can tell some stories related to that, or you can tell some very very distinct bird behavior that only they can understand. So that kind of things can be picked up and used.
Thanks, Puneet. Again, I think there's this repeated mention of age appropriateness that's
Yes.
coming up in this discussion, which will there's this a group called Nature Classrooms, which does work a lot on this. So we'll share their resources as well with you so that you can get a better sense of how you can, because we're not really touching on the nuances of age appropriateness in this particular session. But in case you're interested, we'll do share these resources with you um, in our follow-up email. Um, so you can have take a look at it then.
Yeah.
To continue with the discussion, so yeah, we did talk about how we can get our audience uh, comfortable and cater to the different needs that they might have. But the other challenge that I myself as a educator have is I feel like I am not trained enough or not formally trained to do a certain use a certain kind of creative tool. So hence might resort to these conventional traditional methods of using lectures and presentations and like these conventional ways of how we would otherwise do these engagements. So any tips as an educator who is using creative tools, um, tips for us educators who are not really comfortable or are not, who don't feel confident enough to take up such creative tools, given that we might not be trained in something.
So I think I'll go here because all these so many games are there, no? Like even from my attending the Birding Buddies workshop, I have learned so many games. And each time I am using these games, so it's not just about the higher level research or whatever. So one of the things which really breaks the ice for us is what we call as the bird whispers, where we have a group standing around a circle and one whispers the name of a bird, and then it goes around and we come up with such funny names at the end. So that is a very interesting, and it's thoroughly enjoyed by all age groups. And whatever is the bird name, we try to then tell them something about that bird. So that one works just fine for whatever age group. And relating, and then we also have, the walking like a bird game. And the walking like a bird game is how we have these, water birds so they are kind of, we fold our arms, behind us, and then like we bend, and like an old person we walk. So something like a Catholic red or a stork. So that's a walking like a bird game, which again is popular, I think, across the age groups. So different birds we bring in, which have a characteristic way of moving. So that works fine for all age groups as well. And then we have an interesting activity that we did when we were online, was where, of course, we were online with our phones and laptops and so on. This was during COVID. So the activity was that each student had to take her device to the place where she, actually birded. So, which means that she would take her to a terrace because we were all stuck inside our homes, or to the garden, and then she will just let us see the place, and then she'll tell us which place, where did she see the bird, what was the bird doing, and so that gave each student a feeling of some kind of importance, that all of us were looking on, of course, online, but still, we could see what she was seeing every day. So that was thoroughly, they really liked that, because it made them feel good that everyone was seeing what they did and was listening to them. So that was one thing we had. I repeated it a couple of times because I found that the students really liked it. So this also included me rushing to my terrace and showing them where I also birded regularly during COVID. But that was another thing. And I think this, everyone liked it. We were talking about children who are solitary learners, children who are group learners. So it struck a chord with all of them. So another thing was, like Puneet was pointing out, myths. So they just love to learn. For example, it's not just children, but even elders who have not heard the story before. They love to hear about the 𝗔𝗯ន់𝗂𝗏𝗃. How so-called, they hurl themselves and lose their lives. So why does it happen? It strikes a spark of curiosity. So that is not just age limited. This story works well for entire audience, and then we try to clear the doubts as to actually it's not something taking their lives and why it happens that way and stuff. So these four examples, I would like to say that certain things do work across, and you don't need anything special for this. You don't need to lecture, just games. Games are very
Okay. Yeah, I think for nature journaling as well, we use a lot of games in our activities, and that is the most fun part. I think even art, there are so many exercises which can be made fun, and if we can introduce that in different levels, I think that is the whole point of learning itself. Even nature journaling, again, many a times people wonder that, oh, I'm not an artist, I'm not a naturalist, like how can I teach and things like that. I think, but for children, well, at some point of that might be important, but at a different level, when you are starting off with a group who have never done nature journaling and things like that, you don't have to be any of that. You just have to be curious yourself. You have to be interested in the natural world and getting them to spend time outdoors and engaging with things around them. Okay. And with nature journaling, if you just understand the simple concept of observing and bringing sketching and writing together on each journal page, I think that is a starting point. A next step, I think, just being present with the children, and just as any parent would do, even at home, nudge them to do this, nudge them to do that, nudge them to observe, nudge them to observe a little more, not just once see it and go. There's a very popular saying that comes to mind that goes like, if you have, the kids also these days use their phones as cameras a lot, right? They might go clicking pictures of flowers and all that in their neighborhood or parks. But if the saying goes like, you might spend 1 hour taking photographs of a flower. but spend the same even or even half an hour just drawing the flower, you would have understood it or seen it a lot better than you would have when you just take a click and you walk away, right? So I think just getting them to engage a little more, which any facilitator can do with a bunch of activities. Like and online there are a lot of resources these days, especially John Muir Laws. He's well known for this field of nature journaling, and he has a whole big resource out there for people to use. And there's one activity wherein when it comes to mind with nature journaling is the hand-eye coordination, right? Wherein one is you can just draw with your left hand, just that gives all the focus to observing, because you don't know, you're not used to your other hand. If a person is left-handed already, you do it with the right hand, just to see how they can observe something. And another is wherein you put so much focus onto, for example, if it's a flower, that tell them to draw the flower, but don't look at their books at all till they think they have finished drawing the flower. So these kind of activities, it's called blind contour. You might want to look it up a little more to understand how it's done, the whole activity, but it's really great for observing and getting it on paper. So if we just spend a little time looking at what are the activities that we can do for nature journaling, it is, there are many online already. And the other most important thing for any facilitator is that, encouraging them to enjoy the process. It's always easy to comment on a journal page after it's done. Okay. And not to be judgmental about the page, because everyone's learning at different levels, right? So, but as long as they have tried to sketch, tried to observe, tried to write, and put in all, try to put in questions and many things like where they saw, when they saw, what time, you encourage, you nudge and tell them this is all what you can do, and then get them to build it one step at a time. So the process becomes more important than the end result, and even the child or even the adult understanding it is most important as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So from my side, I would really like to agree with what Kalpana and Sangeeta said. And yeah, Sangeeta, the hand-eye coordination, blind contouring, as you said, right? That's actually really interesting. So we'll try it out next time. So yeah, from my side, so I would say be say when you're doing some theater, as most of you know, theater won't come on the spot, right? So you need to do some practice. So what I would say is, so in our team, what we do is, say if we are doing a 2 day workshop somewhere, or 2 day bird festival somewhere, the day that we complete, the first day, the evening, we do some sort of practice. Okay, so we would have written some, the songs or the dialogues of the skit or play or the musical play, right? So we do some practice beforehand. So I would recommend, say, do some practice beforehand, so that on the day of when you're doing that, when you're doing it in front of the audience, right? So it will be better, is what I would say. And yes, we do make mistakes. So none of us in our team are, good artists in that way, or, good singers in that way. So how much ever you can practice with it, and you can do it in front of the audience. So we do make mistakes, as I said. So what we do is, when we do mistakes in front of children, we kind of change it to a humorous thing, so that they'll have a small laugh in the middle of that play as well. And yeah, one of the team member in our team is good at changing the lyrics of a existing song. So for example, pick a song that is known by children, or known by the audience. So change that lyrics, is what, and something that we tried is what I'm saying. So change that lyrics to some bird behavior or something about nature, and then you can use it in front of the children so that they recognize the tune, but the lyrics is different, so they try to get what the lyrics are. So on top of that, yeah, curiosity will help a lot. Even if you're teaching something very small, be very curious about it, and teach the children. So what we did was, when we took them for a bird walk, we when we try to identify some birds that we only see, we can only identify, but the children cannot. For example, some warbler or something like that. So it's a difficult bird even for us. So what we do when we try to identify, we start saying those colors, how the beak was, how the the eyebrow of that bird was, right? So when we start discussing within ourselves, the children come to us and ask, "What did you see? Can we also see it in the binoculars or something like that?" Then we point it out in the bird guide or whatever it is. So we point it out, see that this is the bird, this comes, this migrates during this so and so period, all those things we explain it to them. So be curious yourselves, so that the curious will be infectious to them as well.
Thank you, Puneet. I think your last statement kind of summarizes all your answers, where the curiosity is very infectious. In as a facilitator, having that would be really helpful, and to be present in the process, to be part of the process, learning with your audience is something that we can definitely do to make it even more like a more effective engagement for both us as facilitators and audience as well. So thank you for bringing that up. So as we are coming close to the end of the session, it's already 11:55. I have one more question for the panel, and then we'll open it to the audience. So it might spill over for a 5 to 10 minutes. But in case anyone is short in time and would like to leave at 12, I'm just sharing a feedback form in the chat, so that please make sure you fill that out before you leave. It's just to get a quick feedback so that we can improve on these sessions and get to you the topics that you would like us to cover. So back to the discussion. Uh, so while we are learning how to kind of get ourselves to include creative tools, kind of exploring this idea, uh, it might be difficult to evaluate how if it's something effective or not. But if you all have some kind of experiences or anecdotes, or some ways where you formally kind of have managed to evaluate if a certain tool that you use, be it theater or stories or any like games for that matter, if they have been effective in bringing that connect with nature, bringing that emotional aspect into picture. Sangeeta, do you want to take?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think with evaluation, it is always difficult to evaluate, I feel, with short, small engagements with people during workshops and things like that. But one thing that I have understood is that, or like I have experiences that sometimes with nature journaling, the from the day one when the child joins to, if it is a 2-day workshop, 3-day workshop, or a 5-day workshop, 5 days definitely shows a lot more things that you can notice with the change in how they are understanding the whole concept of nature journaling. How the growth on their own pages from day 1 to day 5, to see how they are writing, to see how they are capturing drawings in their books is a good evaluation itself. And you can see the interest on their page, however filled up it is or however detailed it is. And so many times the children make associations with nature, right? Like once one of the child was drawing a African tulip tree flower, and for the child it looks like mountains on fire because it is orange and it is tipped with yellowish on the edges, right? So, and they had written that. So just reading those little statements here and there shows that they're really focusing, they're really observing what they're seeing. And for some, the seed of a jacaranda, they express that it looks like a manta ray, or another kid said spaceship. So it's the associations that they make, which shows that they are interested and looking at things, and it's their perspectives are changing slowly. And many a times I've bumped into parents after a few days or a weeks, and how they express that the child is walking around with the sketchbook everywhere, or they went on a travel somewhere and how the child carried the sketchbook with them and try to sketch and journal every day, which is great to hear for us. And many a times a person would have spent so much time in a garden near them. Like we do our workshops in Lal Bagh quite often, or used to do a lot often in Lal Bagh. And there are parents who would come with their children walking every weekend or some every day. But after the workshop, their whole perspective of looking at Lal Bagh it changes. The child sometimes has taken the parent for a walk and showed them so many things that they never knew was there. So things like that make a difference when your workshop just changes the perspective of them, how they observe, how they look at things becomes completely different itself. So that is a good positive note for evaluation, I suppose. Yeah.
Sangeeta. Kalpana?
You're on mute, Kalpana.
Oh, okay. Next, I think I'm in a position where formal feedback is possible. So that's what we do actually get for formal feedback, in the sense that, as I told you, I evaluate how a child conducts a butterfly walk for her peers. So I have some criteria and I look at all the aspects of it. So there, we also have research-based, some projects where, for example, what are the ants across the campus? So we have all these groups of team. It's a team project. So they go to all places on campus and they'll be busy looking at the ants, and they're evaluated on ant behavior and what it fed on and stuff like that. So a formal feedback. A third kind of feedback that we also carry out is, for example, we have a course that's called Basics of Bird Watching as well. So I put out pictures of birds before the course. And at the end of 5 months, again, I put out pictures of many, many more birds. And then besides the ones which already I had put up during the first pre-course feedback. And then we come to know how there is an improvement in identifying the bird. So these are some kinds of formal feedback that we actually go in for. But apart from this, for us, actually this is things that we are doing for marks and stuff like that. But to tell you the truth, the more heartwarming are the non-formal feedbacks. So we have a chat every year when we conduct the certificate course. We have a chat for the group. And all the chats are still active. So that itself is a wonderful feedback for us, because we have people going to some wetland somewhere during some vacation, and then suddenly they'll pop up one picture and say, I saw this, I saw that. And there was a Saras crane suddenly, and making us say, hey, where are you? Yeah, where did you see the Saras crane? So I'm vacationing here. So this is wonderful. I saw it doing this. So that feedback is very, very, it's a delight for us. And I suppose I'd like to mention this, the non-formal feedbacks too, because they are the ones that really make our day. So that's about it.
Thanks, Kalpana.
Yeah, so from my side, as we work with children, we don't do, like formal feedbacks or, questionnaires or something like that. So what we see is when we do those, mix of classroom sessions and theaters, right? So we we see a lot of different, a lot of observation skills improved with the children, because before, say for example, we did a theater play on sunbird behavior, and there was sunbird behavior. Then next, when we spoke to them, they said that we saw that sunbirds were drinking nectar from many different commonly seen flowers that they had not observed before. And they also came to us and said that we are planning to, plant some flowering trees or flowering plants or shrubs near our houses, so that the sunbirds come up, and they'll be able to observe it more clearly. And they were able to see the colors of the sunbird. The purple sunbird with its breeding plumage has a yellow shoulder patch, so that also they were able to see. So all these small observations that they do will actually help us understand that they are doing something, and they are observing more. One more thing is, they had seen a hornbill, but after we did storytelling on the hornbill behavior, they were actually able to identify a tree cavity which actually had a hornbill nest. So there they had done some observations, and they came back to us with that. So that is one really important thing to do. Then in another school where we did the play, we later came to know that there were some boys who were, using the catapults to hit at birds. So we actually, we understood that, and we took it and we did a play on that part as well, connecting the bird with its, it has its own family, it has its own chicks, and you should not hurt them. So then they understood, and they came to us saying that we will not hurt those birds hereafter, and we will observe them what they are doing, and leave them for themselves. So that changes. It might not, all of those might not stay in them, but some of them will be there, and it will stay for a long time, is what we believe. So that kind of evaluation is what we did. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Oh, yes, I'd like to add a couple more things.
Yes.
One more thing is that we usually have the campus bird count in India, in our campus bird count. And then we find that when the students pass out from
Kalpana, you are frozen again. We lost you there. Yeah.
Okay, I think she's stuck.
Maybe we'll, once she's back, we can. I think we lost her. But
Okay.
yeah, we'll hear from her whatever she was saying. And oh yeah,
I think
Kalpana,
she's back. Yeah.
Yes,
do you want to just continue, Kalpana? Maybe a minute.
So was I audible or just got cut off?
You
You
got
did
cut
get
off.
cut
you
off.
you got cut off. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just repeat one small thing, that's all. I just wanted to say that after having gone through, for example, campus bird count on our campus, a few of our students themselves become coordinators of campus bird count in other institutions where they are studying. So that is also like a success. That's what we feel for us. And also them going in for wildlife related courses and higher studies is another very big, a thing which is happening across the earth. Every year, at least a couple are going in for, Wildlife Institute of India or other. We have an entry and so on. So that is also a plus point, I feel. I mean, maybe the impact of all this, what they have imbibed during the course of 3 years. Thank you.
Yeah, I think because you're in a college, you can see so much change, and which is really beautiful actually, and see what happens, the growth of them. That's amazing actually, really nice.
So I think formal feedback does have, like, we can analyze it and do a lot of different serious things with it, but informal or ways where we just observe the changes in the behavior or the kind of observations that the children or our audience have made after a certain engagement adds so much more value and is kind of more fulfilling as to kind of get those kind of instant feedbacks when we are kind of engaging with uh, people. So
Yeah, and just to add one more thing for that, when we started off, my friend Shilpa and I, we started off green scraps and nature journaling workshops in Bangalore in 2010. There were no one doing nature journaling at that point of time. But to just see how nature journaling as a concept has grown all over, I mean, I would take inspiration from the US and, how they are doing nature journaling, and then try to see how I can adapt those exercises and examples here. Now it's just beautiful to see how popular it's become and how so many people are doing it. That itself is a very good feedback, I guess, and how beautifully the community has grown. Yeah.
So, thank you, Sangeeta, Puneet, and Kalpana for this engaging discussion. Audience, if you do have any questions, you can, we might take, like, have a couple more minutes for us to take questions. So you can raise your hand and we can unmute you to ask your question, or you can drop them in the chat box. I currently do not see any questions in the chat box, so you can. So Farida is saying, are there certain established norms for not using certain words, methods while talking to students? Can you throw some light on this? Does anyone want to take this up, this question?
So I'm not very sure about this norms or anything. I don't think there are any norms. But when you're talking to students and children, I would say keep it to a layman language as much as possible, and take it to the local language as much as possible. So then they would really have some connect on this, because we have observed that children will know a lot of bird names in their local language than in the English or any other scientific language. So I would say keep it to the layman language, and keep it to the local thing is what I believe.
Yeah, I think as you said, keep it simple is definitely important. And uh, uh, that with nature journaling, I think there's something that I already mentioned, like not to be judgmental about the artwork, but encourage them with whatever they're doing. Little steps matter. And making concepts simpler, if it's photosynthesis, or even when it comes to metamorphosis, instead of using those words, like use them, but then explain the concept in a way that the children are able to understand. I guess that's one thought that comes to mind.
I'd like to second what Puneet and Sangeeta said, that yes, we try to keep in mind, of course, one is the age of the students. Earlier itself we were talking about it, while using words. But as such, I have the only thing that we try to make them understand is, for example, since it's a age group of the audience is greater here, and some of them are very familiar with zoological names. There are some old names, common names, and so on, which are not, I think, which we should not be using. So we make sure that we do not use, for example, the common name for the black kite was something else earlier. So we try to not to use those words, so that So that is the kind of thing that we just take care of. Otherwise, we are always, anyway, as teachers, we are very careful about what we speak. And yeah, that's about it. And yeah, there's one more question. Through nature journaling, is it possible to talk about climate change for you, Sangeeta?
Yeah. Yeah, there have been conversations about this as well. So basically, when we are trying to record change that is happening around us and in the landscapes around us is a way of, illustrating or like sketching or talking about uh, climate change through our journal pages itself. I haven't exclusively done something on this topic, but what I've heard, I've been part of a conversation that has spoken about this. For example, if there is a land around your house which was nicely wooded at one point of time, and you may have sketched over there, you may not have sketched, you might have gone for nature walks there, and now suddenly you see that whole landscape gone. So even when it's gone, when you sit and just go and observe what the dead wood feels like, or what that dead landscape is now, and showcase it to the viewer or to whoever you can, tell them the story of what happened there. That's a way of nature journaling in itself. Or even trying to show how land, there's so much, for example, even the fossils, the ferns that make the dead ferns of eons ago, like many years ago, millions of years ago, are now the fossil fuel today, right? So just trying, when you draw ferns, you can tell the story of climate change as well, how things were and how fossil is being used now, and try to build that story to the present times. um yeah, I haven't actively done anything regarding this subject in a big way, but we have recorded change for sure in our nature journals. Even a plant that is dying, or even a nest that has got disrupted because of a cat activity or things like that. So there are many ways of showing change and capturing that in your journals as well.
Thank you, Sangeeta, Kalpana, and Puneet. Uh, we don't have more time to take questions from the audience, sorry, but what we can do is you can write to us with your questions. We can relay it to the panelists and get you like either we can connect you to them and you can kind of get your queries solved or any get more insights on uh, doing such engagements using these creative tools. So at the so we are since we are at the end of session and we are already running over time, I would just take a minute to kind of conclude and kind of summarize the different things we talked about today. And
Amrita, if I can just add to that point a little bit, if you don't mind, just within a minute, less than a minute. With the climate change topic itself, like even if you can observe, like, plastic pollution around your homes or your school, recording that and talking about it through your journal style, the way art can kind of communicate to people is very different than taking a picture and showing it to people. So that's an experiment people can definitely try, wherein you're observing the changes around you and showing it to people. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
thanks. So yeah, I think and a couple of things like even this might answer to Farida's question, where climate change can be a very gloomy topic to deal with. So maybe how we kind of approach it would make a difference. And we do have a session on this from November last year, where it talks about how differently and how better we can engage with children around this topic so that it doesn't leave them with grief and a feeling of there's nothing that can be done. So yeah, you can check that out as well, so that it helps you get a more holistic kind of understanding of different ways you can do it, and things that how we can approach these difficult topics as well with children. So yeah. So thank you, Sangeeta, Puneet, and Kalpana, for such an rich and incredible discussion. I hope the audience uh, is kind of learned. Like, I can see from the comments in the chat box that they definitely learned a lot of new ideas, and kind of gained a lot of perspective on these creative tools and using them in their engagement. So we do encourage you to experiment, explore these creative ways, and uh, a way to kind of deepen our own connection with nature and facilitate that for our audience as well. And on that note, let's just use the different ways we can be creative and not just make resort to traditional methods, but also use these creative tools for bringing in the emotional connection to nature, which would be like, we hope it is like a long-term engagement that we leave our audience with. So thank you everyone for joining. I hope you all have filled the feedback form. I'm sharing the link again, so that if you've missed it, you can fill that out. It won't take more than a minute to fill it out. It's just some quick questions to for us to get a better understanding of how we can do better with these sessions.
All right. Thank you
Oh,
so much, Amrita.
Thank you, Sangeeta, Puneet,
Thank you,
Kalpana, again
Thank
for
you.
joining us, and
Thank you.
thank you
Thanks,
everyone
everyone. Yeah.
Kalpana.
Bye.
for joining.
Bye.
Thank you.